Can you believe she actually thought he would show? Vanessa's laugh, that familiar saccharine sound that always grated on my nerves, dripped with malice. My sister, always so good at twisting the knife. Derek's answering chuckle was lower, huskier, but no less venomous. Poor thing, all dressed up, nowhere to go. Or rather, no one to go with. My ex-fiance, the man who had been my world until he shattered it. I'm standing just out of their sight, partially concealed by an ostentatious floral arrangement that probably cost more than my first car. They're huddled near the balcony, oblivious, their heads close together, plotting, always plotting, this time about James, my James, and how to derail what we have. A flash, hot and painful, sears through me. Not of this moment, but of that other day. The white dress, too tight, suffocating me. The expectant faces of hundreds, slowly morphing from anticipation to pity, then to uncomfortable whispers. The empty space beside me at the altar. Derek, gone. And later, the sickening discovery. Vanessa, her fingerprints all over his disappearance, her smug satisfaction a silent confession. Humiliation so profound it had felt like a physical blow, knocking the air from my lungs, leaving me gasping for a life I no longer recognized. Back in the here and now, the memory settles, not as a fresh wave of pain, but as a cool, hard stone of resolve in my gut. I take a slow sip of my champagne, the bubbles fizzing on my tongue. A small smile plays on my lips. Let them scheme. Let them whisper their pathetic little plans. My smartwatch, nestled discreetly on my wrist, has been diligently recording their hushed tones, every damning word about their latest venture into corporate fraud. They are so predictable. A warm hand settles on the small of my back, a familiar touch that sends a shiver of genuine warmth through me, chasing away the lingering chill of the past. James. His eyes, the color of rich espresso, search mine, a silent question in their depths. He senses it, the slight stiffening of my posture, the flicker in my gaze. He doesn't know the specifics, not yet, but he knows me. "Everything all right, my love?" he murmurs, his lips brushing my temple in a kiss so tender, it almost makes my knees weak. Derek's musical idol. The man whose posters had adorned Derek's teenage bedroom walls. Oh, the irony is delicious. I lean into him, my fingers tracing the outline of the massive diamond on my left hand. It's a vulgar display of wealth, I know, but it's also a statement. This ring, a casual gift from James, cost more than Derek's entire sputtering company is worth. "Perfectly fine," I say, my voice smooth as silk. They never learn, do they? The thought is a satisfying echo in the quiet confidence that now resides where the gaping wound used to be. They truly, truly don't. It's funny, isn't it? The people who are supposed to love you the most are often the ones who wield the sharpest knives. My intimate circle. Sounds cozy, doesn't it? It's more like a viper's nest. First, there's Vanessa, my sister, younger, prettier in that fragile, doll-like way that men seem to lose their minds over. She's always wanted what I had. My toys, my friends, my boyfriends. And eventually, my fiancé. She got him too, for a while anyway. I watch her across the dinner table now, her eyes flicking towards James every few seconds, a strange mixture of envy and calculation in their depths. She's probably already picturing herself on his arm. Some people never change. Then, Derek. Ah, Derek, my first love, my first everything. The man who taught me what it felt like to have your heart ripped out, stomped on, and then handed back to you with a dismissive shrug. He abandoned me at the altar, choosing Vanessa and whatever twisted promises she'd spun. He's here tonight, at my father's insistence, looking uncomfortable in his rented tuxedo, his gaze constantly darting between me and James. He's trying to appear nonchalant, but I can see the jealousy eating him alive. Good. Mia, my former best friend. We were inseparable once, sharing secrets and dreams under starry skies. She was the maid of honor who never was, the one who held my hand while I cried, professing eternal loyalty. Then, when the whispers started, when my world crumbled, she was the first to twist the knife of betrayal, feeding the gossip mill with exaggerated tales of my supposed instability, my dramatic tendencies. anything to distance herself from my spectacular fall from grace. Now that I'm engaged to James Reed, a global music sensation, Mia's been trying to sidle back into my life, her messages dripping with feigned concern and not so subtle hints about rekindling our special bond. Pathetic. And finally, Caroline. My stepmother, the woman who swept into our lives after mom died, all saccharine smiles and promises of a happy family. She's always seen me as competition for her own precious daughter, Vanessa. Every achievement of mine was met with a lukewarm compliment, quickly followed by a glowing tribute to Vanessa's latest, often mediocre, accomplishment. She undermined me at every turn, subtly poisoning my father's perception of me, ensuring Vanessa always got the bigger slice of the pie, the lion's share of his affection. Tonight, she's practically purring, basking in the reflected glow of James's fame, no doubt already calculating how this new alliance can benefit her. The family dinner is an exercise in forced civility. It's being held in the grand dining room of my father's mansion, a place that holds so many bittersweet memories. Now, it just feels cold. I'm here not because I want to be, but because it serves my purpose. My fashion business, the one I built from the ashes of my old life, is thriving. I'm wealthy, connected, powerful in my own right, even before James. And I'm collecting information. The family company, Dad's pride and joy, is teetering on the brink of collapse. I hear the whispers, the hushed, worried conversations when they think I'm not listening. Tonight, I endure the subtle jabs, the fake smiles, the carefully veiled insults, all while my mind works, piecing together the fragments of information. Caroline keeps sighing dramatically about market volatility, while Vanessa makes pointed remarks about new ventures and fresh blood being needed. Derek just stares at his plate. A few days later, I run into Mia at Celeste, an exclusive boutique where a single scarf costs more than most people's monthly rent. She practically accosts me, her voice overly bright, her eyes wide with a desperate sort of eagerness. Angelica! Oh my God, it's been ages! You look radiant, she gushes, her eyes flicking down to my engagement ring, then back up, a little too quickly. James is just, wow, you two are perfect together. We make small talk, or rather, she talks. A breathless monologue about how much she's missed me, how she always knew I was destined for great things. I let her. While she's animatedly describing some inconsequential event, I place my purse on the counter to examine a silk blouse. When I turn back just for a fraction of a second, I see it. Mia, her phone angled ever so slightly, snapping a picture of my Amex Black card lying beside my wallet. Her expression is one of focused concentration, quickly masked by a bright smile when she realizes I'm looking. Interesting. Very interesting. The following week, Caroline requests a private meeting. Just us girls, darling, she coos over the phone. Time to mend some fences, don't you think? I agree, knowing full well what's coming. We meet at a ridiculously overpriced tea salon. She spends the first 20 minutes reminiscing about the good old days, conveniently omitting any of her own contributions to the not-so-good ones. Then, the waterworks start. Crocodile tears, perfectly timed, welling up in her carefully made-up eyes. Angelica, darling, I don't know who else to turn to. She sniffles, dabbing at her eyes with a lace-trimmed handkerchief. The company, your father, he's under so much pressure. We're on the brink of bankruptcy. She launches into a convoluted story about bad investments, unscrupulous partners, a perfect storm of financial misfortune. The bottom line, they need money, a lot of it. And since I'm now practically royalty, engaged to the James Reed, surely I can spare a little something to save the family legacy. I listen patiently, nodding in all the right places, feigning deep consideration. My phone, resting on the table between us, is silently recording every desperate plea, every manipulative whimper. I'll have to think about it, Caroline, I say, my voice laced with just the right amount of sympathy. It's a big decision. Her face falls just for a moment before she plasters on another watery smile. Of course, darling. Take all the time you need. And then there's Derek. He reaches out a week later, not with a personal call, but through his barely staying afloat events company. An email, formal and professional, lands in my wedding planner's inbox, which is then forwarded to me. He's proposing to manage the music for my upcoming wedding to James, his wedding to me. The audacity is almost breathtaking. The proposal is slick, full of industry jargon and promises of an unforgettable auditory experience. He even has the nerve to mention his unique understanding of my tastes. He claims it's purely a professional overture, a chance to work on a high-profile event. But I know, Derek, this isn't about business. This is about jealousy, about ego. It's about him trying to worm his way back into my orbit to somehow prove he's still relevant, to sow discord between me and James. He wants to be there in the thick of it, probably hoping to catch James in a bad moment, or whisper poison in his ear about me. He wants to play puppet master. I stare at the email, a slow, cold smile spreading across my face. Oh, Derek, you really have no idea what you're walking into, do you? It starts subtly, like a faint tremor before an earthquake. Gossip blogs, those wretched little corners of the internet that thrive on manufactured drama, begin to whisper. Sources close to the heiress say, insiders reveal that Angelica Monroe's fashion empire might be built on a house of cards. Is James Reed's fiancé hiding a mountain of debt? Mia's handiwork, no doubt. She must have sold those photos of my credit card, along with a fabricated story of my impending financial doom, to the highest bidder. Predictable. And exactly what I was counting on. Potential investors for my new couture line, who were just days away from signing lucrative deals, suddenly grow hesitant. Their calls become less frequent. Their emails are filled with carefully worded concerns about market perception and brand stability. The timing is impeccable, or rather, it would be if I hadn't orchestrated it myself. Publicly, I appear shaken. I give a carefully crafted interview to a sympathetic journalist from a reputable fashion magazine. My voice trembles, a skill I've honed to perfection. I express confusion, deep hurt. I don't understand where these malicious rumors are coming from, I say, dabbing at a non-existent tear with a silk handkerchief. My business is stronger than ever. It's heartbreaking that someone would try to tarnish my reputation, especially at such a happy time in my life. The performance is flawless, Oscar-worthy if I do say so myself. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, things are moving swiftly. The shares in my father's struggling company, the ones I've been quietly purchasing through a series of anonymous shell corporations over the past year, are consolidated. Control is discreetly transferred to a trusted ally, a silent partner who understands the long game. The pieces are falling into place one by one. A few days later, I accidentally run into Mia again, this time at a gallery opening. She's preening, clearly believing her little sabotage scheme is working. "Angelica, darling," she exclaims, a little too loudly, drawing the attention of a nearby group that includes several influential fashion editors. "I heard about those awful rumors. So unfair. I told everyone. Angelica is the most financially savvy person I know." "You must be devastated." Her eyes are gleaming with false sympathy. "It's been challenging," I admit, my voice soft and vulnerable. I let her prattle on, offering unsolicited advice, loudly proclaiming her unwavering support. She's digging her own grave, and she doesn't even see the shovel in her hand. She repeats the false information about my financial troubles, embellishing it with details she couldn't possibly know, all while the fashion editors listen with growing unease. Her voice carries. Perfect. The next morning, my PR team releases an official statement. It's a bombshell. Not only are the rumors of financial trouble utterly baseless, but my fashion line, Phoenix, has just secured a massive international investment deal with one of the most prestigious luxury conglomerates in the world. The value of my company skyrockets overnight. The announcement is accompanied by glowing testimonials from my new partners, praising my business acumen and innovative designs. The press release also includes a carefully worded paragraph about the unfortunate misinformation that had been circulating, subtly hinting at legal action against those who knowingly spread false and defamatory statements. Mia's credibility is instantly destroyed. The fashion editors who witnessed her gleeful gossip session the night before now look at her with disdain. Her attempts to backpedal are clumsy and only make her look more foolish. She becomes a laughingstock in the industry circles she so desperately tried to infiltrate. I, of course, am magnanimous in my victory. In subsequent press statements, I forgive those who were missold by the rumors. I speak of the importance of supporting other women in business. I even mention with a sad shake of my head how disappointing it is when those you once considered friends try to pull you down. The implication is clear, though no names are mentioned. Mia is ruined. A week later, she shows up at my office unannounced. Her eyes are red rimmed, her expensive clothes rumpled. She looks broken. The arrogant smirk is gone, replaced by a desperate, pleading expression. Angelica, please, she whimpers, tears streaming down her face. I I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. I was jealous and stupid and I'll do anything to make it right. Please, you have to forgive me. She babbles on about being blacklisted, about how her freelance styling gigs have dried up, how no one will return her calls. It's a pathetic display. I listen in silence, my expression carefully neutral. When she finally winds down, exhausted and sobbing, I offer her a glass of water. She takes it with a trembling hand. Anything, Angelica. I'll do anything. I consider her for a long moment. Then, a cool, calm smile touches my lips. All right, Mia, I say softly. I believe in second chances. Her face lights up with desperate hope. I have an opening, I continue, my voice even. It's an assistant position to Madame Dubois, the head of our embroidery department. She's demanding, very particular, but it's a start. If you're serious about making amends. Madame Dubois is a notoriously difficult woman, a perfectionist with a tongue like a razor and a temper to match. Working for her will be hell. Mia's face pales slightly, but she nods eagerly. Yes, yes, thank you, Angelica. I won't let you down. Good, I say, standing up, signaling the end of the meeting. Report to HR on Monday. As she scurries out, a mixture of gratitude and trepidation on her face, I allow myself a small, satisfied smile. Revenge is a dish best served cold, but sometimes watching someone slowly simmer in their own self-made misery is just as gratifying. Mia wanted back in, she's in, just not in the way she imagined. Caroline and Vanessa, a tag team of toxicity. They've always been adept at painting me as the villain, the ungrateful daughter, the manipulative opportunist. This time, they set their sights on my father. It's almost laughably easy for them. Dad, bless his heart, has always been a bit blind where Caroline is concerned, easily swayed by her fluttering eyelashes and carefully constructed narratives of woe. They whisper in his ear a constant drip feed of poison. Angelica is using the family name for her own gain. Angelica is leveraging his connections, built over decades of hard work, to boost her frivolous fashion business. Angelica doesn't really care about the family, only about herself and her new glamorous life with James. It's a classic campaign of alienation, and it works like a charm. The culmination of their efforts comes at the annual Business Leadership Awards. I'm receiving a prestigious award for Emerging Entrepreneur of the Year. It should be a proud moment for any father. Instead, when he's invited on stage to say a few words, Dad delivers a thinly veiled critique. He speaks of humility and remembering where you came from. He talks about the importance of loyalty and not stepping on others to get to the top. His eyes barely meet mine. The room, filled with my peers and industry leaders, falls into an uncomfortable silence. It's a public slap in the face, orchestrated by Caroline and Vanessa, who are watching from their table with expressions of poorly concealed triumph. I maintain my composure. I accept the award with grace, a slight tremor in my voice. Again, the acting skills come in handy, as I thank the committee. Later, I give a tearful interview to a waiting reporter, my voice choked with emotion. I speak of the complexities of family relationships, of the pain of being misunderstood by those you love most. It hurts, I whisper, a single tear, glycerin-induced, of course, tracing a path down my cheek. But I will continue to strive to make my family proud, even if they don't always see it. The public sympathy pours in. Poor Angelica, so talented, so successful, yet so tormented by her own family. Behind the scenes, however, a different narrative is unfolding. The public criticism from my father, so humiliating at the time, actually works to my advantage. Several of his business competitors, men he's dismissed or antagonized over the years, reach out to me. They see an opportunity. They see a brilliant, ambitious young woman, unfairly maligned, and they're eager to collaborate. Deals are struck, alliances are formed. My business empire expands quietly but significantly. While Caroline and Vanessa are congratulating themselves on successfully driving a wedge between me and my father, I make my next move. I've had investigators looking into Caroline's finances for months. It wasn't hard to find. She's been systematically embezzling from the family company for years, siphoning funds into offshore accounts, living a life of luxury far beyond what my father's dwindling income could support. The evidence is irrefutable. Forged signatures, doctored invoices, a clear trail of deception. I package it all neatly and anonymously send it to my father's attorneys. Then, I sit back and watch. The explosion happens a week later at a high-profile charity auction. It's a very public, very messy affair. Dad, armed with the damning evidence from his lawyers, confronts Caroline in the middle of the ballroom. Accusations fly. Caroline, usually so poised, so in control, becomes hysterical, denying everything, then trying to blame others. Vanessa tries to intervene, only to get caught in the crossfire. It's a spectacular meltdown witnessed by half of the city's elite. I, of course, am the picture of concern. I rush to my father's side, offering to help mediate. Under the guise of calming the situation, I subtly introduce more damaging information about Caroline's long-term deception, little details I'd held back, just for an occasion like this. Dad, I didn't want to tell you this, but I overheard Caroline on the phone a few months ago. She was talking about selling the summer house without your knowledge. Each revelation is another nail in Caroline's coffin. The fallout is swift and brutal. Dad, finally seeing Caroline for the leech she is, cuts her off completely. No more access to his accounts, no more lavish lifestyle. Vanessa, tainted by her mother's disgrace and her own complicity, finds herself similarly ostracized. A few days later, they arrive at my office. Not together this time, but one after the other, like supplicants before a queen. Caroline is first, her face pale and drawn. Stripped of her usual expensive makeup and designer clothes, she looks ordinary and desperate. Angelica, she begins, her voice raspy. Please, you have to help me. He's thrown me out. I have nothing, nowhere to go. The tears are real this time, tracks of genuine despair on her cheeks. She pleads, she begs. She tries to appeal to my sense of family, of decency. She even tries to blame Vanessa, saying her daughter pressured her into some of the questionable financial decisions. I listen in silence, my hands clasped calmly on my mahogany desk. When she's done, I offer her a tissue. Caroline, I say, my voice devoid of emotion, you made your choices. Now you must live with the consequences. Vanessa arrives an hour later, a storm of fury and entitlement. How could you do this to us? She shrieks, pacing my office like a caged animal. To Mom, to your own family? You've ruined everything. She rants about her lost social standing, her canceled credit cards, the humiliation. She demands that I fix it, that I talk to Dad, that I give them money. Again, I listen patiently until her tirade peters out into frustrated sobs. Then, I lean forward. Vanessa, I say, my voice soft but firm. You and Caroline seem to be under the impression that I owe you something. I don't. However, I pause, letting the silence hang in the air. I am not without compassion. A flicker of hope in her tear-filled eyes. My shipping department is hiring. I continue, my tone brisk and businesslike. Entry-level positions, packing boxes, managing inventory. It's honest work. The pay isn't what you're accustomed to, of course, but it's a start if you're truly desperate. Vanessa stares at me aghast. You want me to pack boxes? It's an offer, I say with a slight shrug. Take it or leave it. Caroline, when presented with the same offer later that day via a sterile email from my HR department, actually accepts. Vanessa storms out of my office, vowing she'll never lower herself. We'll see how long that lasts. The satisfaction is a quiet hum beneath the surface. They wanted to bring me down, to isolate me. Instead, they've only accelerated their own downfall. And I, the ever-dutiful daughter, have simply offered them a way to pick up the pieces. On my terms, of course. Derek, bless his predictable, egotistical heart, actually thinks he's being clever. He maneuvers his way into being hired as the musical consultant for our wedding. James, bless his trusting nature, thinks it's a sign of Derek's maturity, a genuine attempt to move on. He doesn't see the glint of malice in Derek's eyes, the subtle smirk that plays on his lips when he thinks no one is watching. But I see it. I see everything. Derek's plan is twofold. First, to ingratiate himself with James, to become his confidant, his friend. Second, to subtly poison James against me, to plant seeds of doubt, to resurrect ghosts from my past that he believes will make James question his decision to marry me. He starts immediately. During their initial meetings, supposedly to discuss playlists and musical arrangements, Derek drops little tidbits about me. Angelica can be a bit intense, he'd say with a conspiratorial wink. Or, she went through a really wild phase after our breakup. Just be prepared for anything. He fabricates stories, exaggerates old incidents, all designed to paint me as unstable, difficult, perhaps even a little unhinged. He thinks he's weaving a masterful web of deceit. He has no idea he's dancing to my tune. Publicly, I appear concerned. When James, with a furrowed brow, relays some of Derek's more outlandish claims, I sigh dramatically. "Oh, Derek," I say, my voice laced with sadness. "He's never really gotten over us, has he? I worry about him, James. He seems so bitter." I reassure James of my undying love and devotion, playing the part of the wronged woman, wounded by her ex's desperate attempts to sabotage her happiness. James, being the good man he is, buys it completely. His protective instincts kick in, and he becomes even more affectionate, more determined to shield me from Derek's perceived malice. Perfect. Meanwhile, I'm busy setting the stage for Derek's grand finale. I organize a high-profile pre-wedding showcase event, a Battle of the Bands style charity concert featuring up-and-coming artists, and, as a special headline act, James Reed himself. I also extend a special invitation to another performer, Derek's old college band, Static Bloom, recently reunited and eager for a comeback. Derek, of course, sees this as his golden opportunity. He envisions himself wowing the crowd, perhaps even outshining James, proving his superior talent. He eagerly accepts the invitation to perform a solo set, showcasing his new material. He has no idea what I know about his new material. For months, my private investigators have been digging into Derek's musical career, or what's left of it, and they found gold. Or rather, they found evidence of theft. Derek's most popular songs, the ones that got him a modicum of success years ago, weren't his. He'd plagiarized them from a little-known indie musician he'd briefly collaborated with and then ghosted. The original songwriter had faded into obscurity, too broke and disheartened to fight, until now. I anonymously leak the evidence demo tapes, old emails, sworn affidavits from witnesses, to key music industry bloggers and journalists, timing the release perfectly to coincide with the showcase event. I also ensure the original songwriter has a front-row seat and a very good lawyer by his side. The night of the showcase is electric. The venue is packed with industry executives, A&R scouts, influential critics, and, of course, a legion of James Reed fans. Static Bloom delivers a surprisingly tight, energetic set. Then James takes the stage, and the crowd goes wild. He's a true rock star, effortlessly charismatic, his voice soaring, his guitar work flawless. He's a legend for a reason, and then it's Derek's turn. He swaggers onto the stage full of misplaced confidence. He launches into his first song, one of his new compositions. It's mediocre, technically proficient perhaps, but lacking any real soul, any originality. The crowd is polite but unenthusiastic. As he starts his second song, the one he's banking on to be his comeback hit, the whispers start. Phones light up around the room as the news of the plagiarism scandal breaks online. People start looking at him differently, their expressions shifting from boredom to disdain. The original songwriter, prompted by his lawyer, stands up and calmly, clearly, accuses Derek of stealing his music. The microphone picks it up. The room erupts. Derek falters, his voice cracking. He tries to deny it, but his face is pale, his eyes darting around nervously. He looks like a cornered rat. Compared to James's effortless brilliance, Derek's performance is now painfully, obviously inferior. The industry executives are exchanging knowing glances. His career, whatever was left of it, is over, publicly, humiliatingly. He stumbles off stage, defeated. Later that night, he shows up at my penthouse, drunk and desperate. He bypasses security somehow, probably by bribing a gullible guard. He's a mess, tie askew, hair disheveled, reeking of cheap whiskey. "Angelica, you gotta help me," he slurs, barging into my living room where James and I are quietly celebrating the success of the event. "They're trying to destroy me. It's all lies. You know I couldn't." He's rambling, incoherent, practically on his knees. I signal James to stay back, my expression calm, almost sympathetic. "Derek," I say softly, "what exactly are they accusing you of?" He launches into a rambling, tearful confession. He admits to borrowing a few melodies, to being inspired by the other songwriter. He doesn't realize my phone, strategically placed on the coffee table, is recording every word. His drunken admission of guilt, his pathetic excuses, his desperate pleas for me to use my influence with James to make it all go away. When he's finally cried himself out, I stand up. "Derek," I say, my voice suddenly cold as ice. "You're drunk, and you're trespassing. I think it's time for you to leave." I press a silent alarm. Within minutes, my security team arrives and escorts a protesting, bewildered Derek out of the building. As the door closes behind him, James turns to me, his eyes wide with a mixture of shock and dawning understanding. "Did you?" he begins. I simply smile, pick up my phone, and play back Derek's pathetic, career-ending confession. "Some people," I say, taking a sip of my champagne, "just never learn when to exit the stage." Our engagement party is everything you'd expect it to be. Opulent, extravagant, a glittering affair held in the grand ballroom of a historic hotel. Hundreds of guests mingle, a veritable who's who of the entertainment industry, business tycoons, and society figures. My family is there, of course, looking a little shell-shocked by the sheer scale of it all. Caroline and Vanessa are conspicuously subdued, sticking to the fringes, their earlier confidence completely deflated. Mia is diligently and miserably handing out canapés, dressed in a drab uniform that makes her blend into the wallpaper, a far cry from the designer gowns she used to covet. Derek is nowhere to be seen, his public implosion having rendered him persona non grata. The mood is festive, celebratory. Speeches are made, toasts are raised. Then, James takes the microphone. He looks devastatingly handsome in his custom-tailored suit, his eyes sparkling with love as he gazes at me. "To Angelica," he begins, his voice warm and resonant, capturing everyone's attention. "My beautiful, brilliant fiancée. Many of you know her as the creative force behind Phoenix Fashions, a true visionary, but there's something else you should know." A hush falls over the room. I can feel my father's curious gaze, Caroline and Vanessa's suspicious stares. James smiles. A slow, enigmatic smile that makes my heart skip a beat, even now. For the past 5 years, Angelica has also been the silent majority owner of Reed Entertainment. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Reed Entertainment, the record label that launched James's career, the label that he supposedly owned. "We've been business partners," James continues, his eyes never leaving mine. "Long before we were romantic partners. She saw the potential in a struggling musician when no one else did. She invested in me, believed in me, and together we built an empire." He reaches for my hand, drawing me to his side. The applause is deafening. My family looks utterly stunned. Vanessa's jaw is practically on the floor. Caroline looks like she might faint. The truth is, this was always the plan. My rebirth, as I like to call it, after Derek's betrayal, wasn't just about picking myself up. It was about meticulously, strategically rebuilding my life. Not for revenge, but for something far greater. My fashion empire, Phoenix, wasn't just a passion project. It was a calculated move. Using my innate understanding of trends, my business acumen sharpened by years of watching my father and learning from his mistakes, I built a brand that was not only successful but also incredibly influential. It gave me access, connections, a platform. It positioned me perfectly to enter the world James inhabited, not as a starstruck fan, but as an equal. And the new money image? That was carefully crafted too. The flashy cars, the extravagant purchases, the slightly too loud declarations of my newfound success. All part of the illusion. The truth is, I come from old wealth. Wealth that even my father, in his obsession with his own struggling company, had largely forgotten or dismissed. My maternal grandmother, a shrewd and fiercely independent woman, had left me a considerable fortune, locked away in a trust that activated on my 30th birthday. That birthday had come and gone shortly after Derek left me at the altar. I'd kept it quiet, strategically hidden, letting everyone believe I was starting from scratch. It gave me an advantage, an element of surprise. It allowed me to move undetected, to make investments, to build my power base without scrutiny. James steps forward again, his arms securely around my waist. "There's more," he says, his voice laced with amusement. "I know many of you were surprised by our whirlwind romance." He glances pointedly at my family. "But the truth is, our meeting wasn't exactly chance." He looks at me, a deep, tender love in his eyes. "I knew about Derek's abandonment, the whole sorry story. I'd been following Angelica's career for years, even before Phoenix took off. I admired her resilience, her fire, her sheer determination to not just survive, but to conquer. When she started making waves in the fashion world, I knew I had to meet her. So, yes, our chance meeting at that art exhibition? Orchestrated by both of us. We'd been corresponding for months, planning our collaboration, both business and personal." He winks at the stunned crowd. I can feel a blush creep up my neck, but I'm smiling. It's true. Our connection was instant, powerful, a meeting of minds and souls as much as a strategic alliance. But the final bombshell is yet to come. I step forward, taking the microphone from James. My voice is calm, steady, but there's an undeniable note of triumph in it. "Thank you, James," I say, my gaze sweeping across the room, lingering for a moment on my father, on Caroline, on Vanessa, on Mia. Their faces are a mixture of disbelief, shock, and dawning horror. It's true. I've been busy building Phoenix and working alongside James at Reed Entertainment. But I've also been diversifying my portfolio. I pause, letting the suspense build. As of this morning, I announce, my voice clear and ringing, I have acquired a controlling interest in Monroe Industries. My father's company. The company he'd poured his life into. The company Caroline and Vanessa had been so desperate to save with my money. The company Derek had probably hoped to exploit. Through a series of anonymous shell corporations, of course, I add with a small, knowing smile. It seems the family business needed a little fresh blood after all. The silence in the room is absolute. My father looks pale, his hand gripping the back of a chair for support. Caroline and Vanessa are ashen-faced. Mia looks like she might actually be sick. "So, to my family and my former friends," I say, my voice softening slightly, though the steel remains in my eyes. "Welcome to the new era. It seems I'm now your boss." The implications hang heavy in the air. The power dynamics have irrevocably shifted. I hold all the cards, and the game has only just begun. The confrontation, when it finally comes, is less dramatic than I'd anticipated. They arrive at my new, sprawling office, the CEO's office at Monroe Industries, a few days after the engagement party. Not together, as I might have expected, but in a staggered procession of desperation. Vanessa is first, predictably. She tries bluster, then threats. "You can't do this, Angelica. This is Dad's company. You're destroying our family." When that doesn't work, I simply raise an eyebrow and continue signing documents. She switches to tearful apologies, a rehash of her performance in my Phoenix office, only this time laced with a new level of panic. "I'm sorry, okay? I was awful. But you can't just take everything." Caroline follows, looking even more diminished than before. Her attempts at manipulation are weaker now, tinged with a raw fear I've never seen in her. She talks about loyalty, about blood, about the years she dedicated to my father. She begs for a severance package, a small stake, anything. Her pleas are interspersed with not-so-subtle reminders of how she always looked out for me. A narrative so false it's almost laughable. Mia is next, more subdued, her earlier brief flicker of hope completely extinguished. She doesn't even try to make excuses. She just stands there, looking defeated, and asks if her entry-level job in the shipping department at Phoenix is still available. There's a pathetic sort of dignity in her surrender. Derek doesn't show. I hear through the grapevine that he's left town, trying to escape the fallout from his plagiarism scandal and the mountain of debt he's accrued. Good riddance. They are a sorry collection of betrayers, their faces etched with the consequences of their actions. I listen to each of them, my expression unreadable. The power I now wield is a palpable thing in the room, and they feel it. Their apologies are hollow, driven by self-preservation, not genuine remorse. My father arrives separately later that afternoon. He looks older, tired, but there's a clarity in his eyes I haven't seen in years. He doesn't make excuses. He doesn't try to defend Caroline or Vanessa. "Angelica," he says, his voice heavy with regret. I was blind for so long. I let them manipulate me, poison me against my own daughter. I failed you. As a father, as a businessman. I am so deeply sorry." He looks at me, his gaze direct, sincere. "I'm proud of what you've become, what you've built, despite me, not because of me. If you'd ever be willing to try again, to have some semblance of a relationship, I would be grateful." His apology feels real, the first genuine words I've heard all day. When the four of them, Vanessa, Caroline, and Mia, with a reluctant, shame-faced father eventually joining their sorry delegation, finally managed to gather in my office later, their united front is weak and unconvincing. They alternate between veiled threats about public perception and more tearful, desperate apologies. I let them exhaust themselves. Then I speak, my voice calm, devoid of the anger and hurt that once consumed me. "I've heard what you all have to say," I begin, looking at each of them in turn. "Your apologies, your excuses, your requests." I pause, letting the silence stretch. "I forgive you," I say simply. A collective sigh of relief, quickly stifled, ripples through them. Hope flickers in their eyes. "But let me be clear," I continue, my gaze hardening slightly. "I forgive you for my peace, not for yours. I forgive you because holding on to that bitterness, that anger, is a burden I no longer wish to carry." I stand up, walking around my large desk to look out the panoramic window at the city skyline. "What you did, the betrayals, the lies, the manipulations, they happened. They shaped me. They fueled the fire that built everything you see around you." I gesture vaguely to the bustling city below, to the thriving enterprise I now command. But forgiveness does not mean forgetting, and it certainly does not mean reconciliation, not in the way you imagine. I turn back to face them. I have no obligation to keep harmful, toxic people in my life. I have no obligation to salvage relationships that were built on deceit and self-interest. I look at Vanessa, then Caroline. "You will be dealt with fairly according to company policy. Your roles, if any, within Monroe Industries, or any of my enterprises, will be determined by your skills and your conduct moving forward, not by familial ties or past grievances." To Mia, I nod slightly. "Your position at Phoenix is still available. If you choose to accept it, you will be treated as any other employee. Your success or failure will be your own." Then, I look at my father. His face is etched with pain, but also a glimmer of understanding. "Dad," I say, my voice softening almost imperceptibly. "Your apology? I accept it. As for a second chance? Perhaps. In time. But it will be on new terms. Terms built on honesty and mutual respect. Not on obligation or guilt." I take a breath. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a company to run and a wedding to plan. It's a dismissal, clear and unequivocal. They file out one by one, their shoulders slumped, their dreams of a quick fix, of a return to their former status, shattered. 6 months later, the sun is setting over the turquoise waters of the Indian Ocean, painting the sky in hues of orange, pink, and gold. James and I are on the veranda of our private villa on our private island. Barefoot, comfortable, a gentle breeze ruffling our hair. The remnants of a delicious, simple dinner sit on the table between us. So, James says, swirling the wine in his glass, a contented smile on his face. Monroe Industries is up 15% this quarter, and Reed Entertainment just signed that new artist you were so excited about. Any other global domination plans for this week, my love? I laugh, leaning my head on his shoulder. Just finalizing the seating chart for the wedding. That, my dear, is a far more complex strategic operation than any corporate takeover. He chuckles, kissing the top of my head. I have every faith in your abilities. We sit in comfortable silence for a while, watching the waves gently kiss the white sand beach. The air is warm, scented with frangipani and salt. It's peaceful, genuinely peaceful. Later, as James strums a soft melody on his acoustic guitar, I walk down to the water's edge. The sand is cool beneath my feet. I watch the waves, their rhythmic advance and retreat a soothing balm to my soul. My journey has been a complicated one, filled with betrayal, with pain, with a burning desire for retribution. And yes, there was a certain satisfaction in watching my enemies fall, in seeing them stripped of their power, their arrogance, but standing here now with the man I love, in a life I built not on the ashes of revenge, but on the solid foundations of my own strength, my own intellect, my own resilience. This is the true victory. The ultimate triumph wasn't their punishment. It was my happiness, my peace. I built a world where I am safe, where I am loved, where I am respected. A world where the villains of my past have no power over me, not because I destroyed them, but because I outgrew them. I created a life based on authentic relationships, on success earned through my own brilliance, my own hard work. A small smile touches my lips. The past is a closed chapter. The future is a beautiful open horizon, and I am ready for it. The tide is coming in, washing away the old, making way for the new, and it's perfect.